Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Halstead. I am a laughter lover. Those who have joined me before know that I love to smile, I love to laugh, and sometimes I just share goofy things, because it's good to laugh and it makes it a little easier to get through life even when there are tough times. I'm also a lifelong learner. I am a firm believer that all along life's path there are all kinds of things that definitely present themselves that give us various lessons and insights, and when I learn things I like to be able to share them with other people. So that's why I'm doing this quick little Periscope tonight. Thank you so much for the hearts. If you'd be kind enough to share the link with your friends or followers, you can swipe down, swipe across. It'll bring up the screen where you can share that either on Twitter or on Facebook. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So in addition to being a lifelong learner and a laughter lover, I'm also an abundance attractor, and my life has been really turned around with that change and being able to attract wonderful and good things into my life. So I can tell you more about that a little bit later, but tonight I wanted to focus on a little bit of the things that I learned, the insights tonight as I was driving in the snow. Good to have you join us. Thanks for coming on. As you come on, go ahead and tell me your name and where you are watching from. It's always nice to greet you. So I am in Milwaukee at the time. I was in central Wisconsin where I live and drove to Milwaukee tonight because tomorrow I'm going to be presenting at a seminar. And, I wasn't sure what I was going to run into. When I left home, everything was clear. There was no snow, no problems. And it wasn't short. It was just shortly after I left that it started to snow. And as I kept going, the snow got worse. It was just about 32 degrees outside, so it wasn't like a really cold wintertime drive, but it was cold enough to turn things to snow. And these were those great big white fluffy flakes, the ones that are just huge, and it started snowing harder and harder, and it wasn't long before I really couldn't see the road anymore, and then I was just looking for little things that I could actually see to make sure that I was still on the road. And for those of you that have driven in the snow, maybe you've had this kind of experience before. But as the sight was just becoming near whiteout, I mean, I really couldn't see anything. It was really difficult to be able to, know whether I was even on the road anymore or not. And I got to thinking, because I had my GPS ready to go, so it was telling me, how to go to Milwaukee, where I needed to get to my hotel. And so it was there giving me direction. And I got to thinking about how before we had GPS, I used to go on like Google Maps or something and figure out what route I needed to take and write down the directions so that I had them nice and handy and where I needed to turn and, all of that kind of stuff. And if you're old enough to remember life before the internet, at one time we just had paper maps, and you kind of looked at the map to figure out where you needed to turn. But GPS is great because it helps you keep you on track. Now, there were times where I really could not see the road. I just prayed that I wasn't going off into the ditch, and I was so grateful when I would come to an overpass and I would go underneath that, and there was just that little bit of pavement that I could see where there wasn't snow from that point, where I could gauge and find out, am I still in the lane? I might see that white dotted line over to the left telling me that, yes, okay, so I'm still on the road. And that was a good reassurance, because it was pitch black except for all this white snow coming at you, and I really couldn't see anything. And, I got to thinking about how having GPS or having a route mapped out for you is a lot like how some people go through life. If you have a goal, if you have something that you're striving for, that you're trying to reach, then if you have some kind of a plan or a map to get you there, that's half the battle. I knew that GPS was there and it could help me to get to my final destination. And I think the same thing holds true in life. There are those times where It's like the whiteout conditions, you know? I mean, like, you can't see where you're going. You know, you think and you just hope and pray you're on the right path. You don't want to fall off into the ditch. You want to be able to keep going, you know, in the direction that you need to go. So if you have GPS for life, if you have a goal, if you have a map, if you have a plan for how you're going to get there, it's a little bit easier to achieve. Now, as I was driving down the road, at one point, I didn't even realize this. I was just concentrating on, you know, not being in the ditch, not going into another lane, and I realized that I had actually gone onto an off-ramp, you know, and I had exited the highway and got to the edge of that ramp, and then my GPS was telling me, okay, just continue on straight and get back onto the highway. So I didn't even realize that I was off the path, and my GPS was able to tell me how to get safely back onto the road. And there are times like that in life too, where we think we're doing the right thing, we're not exactly sure, but we follow along, you know, what we think is the right road, and we might not even realize that we have veered off the path. We're no longer focusing on that goal. We're no longer going toward the direction that we want to go. And we think we are, but we're not. So sometimes having a mentor or having, you know, a clear map of where it is you want to go can be like that GPS that guides you back, that lets you know what, you got off track just a little bit here, but here's how you can get back on track. And, you know, I was grateful for that correction. I was grateful to hear where I was because I couldn't see. I mean, it was total whiteout. I really couldn't see. So I was grateful to have that GPS tell me how to get back on the path. Now, that wasn't the only lesson that I got while I was out there during the snowstorm, because I found myself, you know, people were really slowing down. This was a highway where the speed limit is like 70 miles per hour. And there were times where I was going 15. You know, it was pretty good if I could get 25 to 30, but there were times where I literally had to slow down to like 10 or 15 miles an hour on the highway. And there were a whole line of cars behind me, you know, and they were passing. I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to be the one out front here, you know. I would much rather see some red taillights ahead of me that gives me that vision of where I'm going. But the truth was, at that time and for several miles, I was the leader. I was the one, and there were a whole bunch of people behind me that were relying on me staying in the right place so that they could follow and they could be in the right place. And I don't know if you've ever been involved in a business or a goal where you're working with other people, but very often that can hold true for you in that kind of situation as well. Maybe you didn't want to be the leader. Maybe you'd rather follow somebody, but you know what? It doesn't always happen when you're ready for it. Sometimes it happens because the opportunity is there. And you've got to just be brave and go out ahead and try to do your very best. And those who are watching you, those who are relying on you, are grateful for the fact that you're in the lead. I mean, I remember thinking as I was driving down, you know, this road, and it seemed to go on forever. Of course, that happens when you know, when it feels kind of scary and you're not sure where you're going. Everything seems to take longer, even though I was going much slower, so it was taking a long time. But I remember thinking, my gosh, you know, where are the snowplows? Don't these people in these counties pay taxes? I mean, come on, where's the snowplow? I wanted somebody to get out there and clear that road and make it easier for me, you know. I wanted to be able to see the pavement. I wanted to be able to know where I was going. And there weren't any snowplows. I mean, they just weren't around. So sometimes in life it's like that too, you know. You just want somebody else to show you the way, but you've got to do your very best. You might not be able to see what the answer is, but you've just got to keep going, and you don't have to go fast. I mean, I played it safe. I went slowly, and I was able to avoid, getting in the ditch, being in accidents, and certainly there were a number of those. I saw a semi in the ditch. I saw police cars later on as I got towards the city, and I know there were a lot of people that had trouble with the storm. But if you are careful and you stay the path and you keep going, you can get to your destination. So I was kind of surprised how, even though it was a difficult journey, even though it's one I've had before, and I've certainly made the trip before, this time there were new challenges. I could not see where I was going. I could not tell if I was on the right path. And things took a lot longer than I wanted them to. All of these things are just like life. All of these things are just like what we go through when we're trying to achieve our goals. It can be hard to see. We might veer off the path, but if we've got GPS or a mentor or someone that can help us get back on track, and we just play it safe and keep going, there could be other people watching us behind, wanting to be able to, follow that path that we have. It was all a good lesson. It was all a good lesson. And I arrived at my destination safe and sound. And, I'm really glad to be able to have made it to the hotel and be ready for my conference tomorrow. But just thought I would share that little bit of insight with you. It's kind of funny how life can give you lessons when you least expect them, and how the message can come through loudly and clearly. So just thought I would share that little bit with you, and hope that it's inspiring to you as it was to me, and that you're all very safe, that if you do venture out in a storm, that you're safe as well. I know that you have the power to be able to make it through the storm, to be able to reach your goals, to be in the right direction, to be able to stay the course, and maybe you'll remember that the next time you're out in a snowstorm. So thanks so much for coming on board. I appreciate spending a little time with you tonight, and thank you again for the hearts and for sharing with your followers. Always enjoy spending some time with you. May you have a wonderful and blessed evening, or if it's daytime where you are right now, may the rest of your day be absolutely fantastic, and spent with those you love most. So I will see you again another time, and everybody please take care.